Hello, everyone. I think we can start. Thank you very much for joining us. It is a pleasure to be introducing our research degree to you all, wherever you are. I wished I could see you, we could be in person, but it's still wonderful to be able to reach you wherever you are based now. My name is Guido Rebecchini, and I teach at the Courtauld Renaissance art, mostly Italian art, but also French and some Spanish. And I am the head of the research degree program, so I chair the research committee, and I oversee with my colleagues the program in its entirety. So today I will be speaking generally about doing a PhD at the Courtauld, and also provide some more detailed information about the support that is on offer. I would say something about funding and on the application process. But before we get to that point, it is important to reflect on why doing a PhD. What is that a PhD contributes to your life, and how it will shape your identity as a scholar. More than anything else, I think it is fundamental. It is something you cannot avoid, you cannot do a PhD without, is a strong interest in research, which means, in effect, a very sustained, irrepressible intellectual curiosity. You must be convinced that the question you ask are really compelling and central to your ways of thinking. If you have this clear in your mind, I think that doing a PhD can be an extremely rewarding experience, a long and intense, but also exciting and really full of energy in many ways. The Courtauld has a strong emphasis on research. We are all researchers, members of the faculty have embedded in their job research time, and we all publish, attend conferences, do research, organize research grants and projects. It's really part of our culture. The Courtauld itself has always been traditionally so, but last year in the so-called REF, this research framework exercise, we came up first for the research environment, and very strong in other areas of relating to the research culture of the Institute. For research environment, we mean what is that facilitates, enables research. There is a culture of research. There are very many research-led events, and so then research guides even our teaching. Even our undergraduate teaching is very much informed by faculty's research. So the strong interest, your intellectual curiosity will be supported by an environment that really fosters and values very, very highly research. On a personal level, it appears to me that really working with postgraduate researchers, such as you are, or potentially will be, is really one of the joys of the job that we do. The Courtauld, as you all know very well, is a single subject institution. So whoever whatever aspect of the field of the art history and the visual culture you're interested in, you must be guided by a passion for objects, buildings, illuminations, paintings, installations. So we really focus on objects as the lens to understand the culture which has produced those objects, whether it be in the Middle Ages, in the early Middle Ages, or today, or even tomorrow. So passion for the objects. Art history is an inherently interdisciplinary discipline, one that draws ideas from all directions, from more theoretical disciplines and from more practical and disciplines such as conservation. Technical art history is very much about how objects are made, what are they made of, and how they are constructed. And on the other end of the spectrum, you could take an approach that is philosophical or sociological, but still the object and its aspect, its the way it communicates visually has to be at the center of your attention. You also have to be very committed to what you do. The belief in the significance of one's subjects is what gives you strength to go through these years of intense research and intense exchange with a supervisor, with other colleagues, with peers, with friends, and with the people in the community. And that this belief that you have, that what you have to say, it's important. It's important for you, but it's also important generally for the discipline and for the world. That is another, I think, element that gives strength to researchers and gives really meaning to their work. Of course, one has also to be strategic and think about your ambitions and what you want to do with a PhD. This is something, it's a step in your career. It's not the final work that you do. It's not the definitive work you do on your subject. It's a step in a career, and the career and many careers nowadays really value the experience of a PhD. Others do so in a less feel less strongly about it. So one has to be very, very, very clear about this. So if these are the qualities, I think, that you must feel strongly about, these are the values you must feel strongly about, and your skills and qualities, what is that makes a good PhD topic? How to start conceiving an idea? You probably all have ideas already in this regard, otherwise you wouldn't be attending this event. But I would say there is an element of originality that certainly is key to a successful PhD. An element of originality that lays in one of the aspects that makes a large research project, such as a PhD. That is your approach, or the set of sources that you are consulting, or the set of objects you're looking at. So there must be a sort of, at least an element, if not more, of originality, and that contributes to shape your persona as an intellectual, your persona, your public identity as a scholar. And to do so, to achieve originality, you have to know exactly how you position yourself in the field. So that how you strategically situate your research in relation to other scholars, to the work of other scholars. To do so, you have to have a clear understanding of the scholarship in your field, obviously, but also you have to select who are your ideal, with whom you have an ideal dialogue, because that ideal dialogue, which starts at the beginning with your thinking about how you approach what others have said, will probably become an actual dialogue with other scholars who are engaged in the same field. So originality, but originality can only be achieved through a strategic and very clear positioning of yourself in the discipline. So far for the broad categories that one has to keep in mind when starting in this journey. But now we could, I would like to sort of illustrate what a PhD looks like at the Courtauld year by year. In year one, we have a seminar, a weekly seminar called Skills and Methods, which I call a space for conversation, a space for structured conversation, if you want, where we deal with methods and more broadly, more in a theoretical way, but also we deal with more practical issues such as access, how to sort out, how to seek sources, what kind of archival skills one does need to go through large amount of materials, what type of software one could use to facilitate research. And it's also a moment of reflection, and also a social moment where you are together with the entire cohort of first-year postgraduate researchers. So it's a moment where you forge friendships, where you forge intellectual relationships, and you exchange ideas with your peers, as well as with some members of the faculty, mostly led by me. The main requirement to progress from year one to year two is a paper called Upgrade Paper, a paper of 8,000, 10,000 words, between 8,000 and 10,000 words, which shows your ability to master an argument and using an original set of sources or materials that you analyze. This can be a chapter of your thesis, and in most cases is part of a chapter of your thesis, if not an entire chapter. During the first year, you can continue language training in both. You'll be encouraged, if needed, to pursue the study of languages. Part of it will be able to support, other maybe not, but it's certainly an area to which we attach great importance. And during the first year, you can also enjoy a virtually limitless range of events, of research events that take place in London, in the very many institutes which form part of that galaxy of academic institutions that form the University of London, of which we are part. Albeit we are independent, fully independent within it, but the degree is given by the University of London, and we have access to events from SOAS to King's to the Institute of Historical Research, Senate House. There's really a vast amount of on offer, including our own research forum, which is a space for the presentation of new research that is incredibly active, with over 150 events a year. That is one every 2 or 3 days, where you can meet the young artists and established artists. You can meet scholars from truly all over the world in working in so many different fields. So it's a year that is about focusing on a single aspect of your dissertation, and also on strengthening your skills and forming that social network that enables you to progress as a scholar in the Courtauld. In the second year is mostly dedicated to in-depth research. So overseas field trips and extended research trips are advised. We advise that take place in the second year. You continue your training, and you can begin teaching. We offer teaching assistant positions initially, and eventually also associate lecturer positions to teach in our undergraduate courses. The assessment in the second year, or what marks the completion of the second year, is a symposium. This is rather informal and will be with other researchers, postgraduate researchers and their supervisors. And it's mostly an opportunity for asking questions about problems you're facing, and for receiving and passing on advice on how to develop your interests. So the second year has a very informal, very friendly, informal type of conclusion, one that sets which allows you to make serious plans for the third year. It's also year 2, and a year where you continue to write, of course, your dissertation in consultation with your supervisor and advisor. In year 3, you technically have to complete revising and revise your chapters. I emphasize that the PhD is a 3-year course. It's not a 4 or 5 years course. There is a grace period after the 3 years, but it should be tailored, it should be feasible in 3 years. And this is, I emphatically underline this point. The PhD is not the work of your life. It's not the final word on your subject, and you will be revising, rethinking, reconsidering it. So 3 years is the right length. Also, in the economy of your life, you don't want to spend much more than 3 years of this, and because then there are challenging in the world of professional world, and so in academic world, and you want to be ready to progress to make progress with your life. The third year ends with a postgraduate symposium, which is instead a much more formal affair. It's a proper conference with some of the students take charge of its organization. They invite a very prominent scholar generally to give a keynote, and they present to an open public. And so it's really a moment where you showcase your research, and you become known to the people in your field who will pay attention to the work that you do. And of course, year 3 is dedicated to organize submission and the final examination. So that's potentially there is a 4th year, which we call writing up year, that allows for kind of wrapping up if there have been delays of some kind. And you can imagine that having been through the COVID pandemic, of course, this fourth year has been really key for many of our current postgraduate researchers, but and who have so in this way been able to continue their work that had to be necessarily be delayed owing to the situation of the past years. I've already spoken about the research forum, but I could also add a few words about immediations, which is a very interesting and cutting-edge journal that research students, postgraduate researchers are responsible for. They take turn being editors and selecting articles, editing them, and forming an invaluable experience in the field of publications that has, I think, also a very relevant professional importance in everybody's future in this field. So far for what the course looks like, I hope I have remembered everything, but there'll be time for questions at the end of my presentation. We offer also an ongoing, throughout the year, every year, career support. There is a dedicated member of staff who is very, very experienced in the field, has an enormous network of contacts, and provides very valuable advice, both during events that are organized for many of our many members of our community, but also on a regular basis. One-to-one appointments are offered, both for discussing careers, for practicing interview, for revising CVs, etc., etc. In addition, we also have academic support in place, both of more more about standards, about style, about how to frame your argument. So there is a person who is experienced in helping shape your initial thoughts, and who perhaps at your level is maybe less relevant, but it is anyway there, and it's part of the library team. This service has been embedded in the library, among the library services, which nowadays are not anymore providing you with books, but also with resources and helping to and helping with also accessing all sorts of materials that may be needed, from videos to rare documentation. There is also a very valuable, something that I personally have by experience seen as very valuable, which is the presence of the Royal Literary Fellows. So these are professional writers who regularly are present at the Courtauld and offer one-to-one appointments to help you to put down on paper your ideas in the most effective way. So they don't deal with contents, but with the style with which you put forward your ideas. And at all levels, from they are very helpful. They are incredibly helpful for students who have not English as their primary language, like me, but also students who have English as their native language and who can still improve in their style of written presentation. So this is what is on offer from the point of view of career and academic. Funding. There are two streams of funding for postgraduate researchers. One is we call Courtauld scholarships, which come from different sources. Some are restricted to certain topics. The majority of them are open, and they are open to all applicants. They're open to all applicants, and I invite every single applicant who is intending to send in their application to apply for those. They range between £7,000 and £10,000, so they don't cover the full amounts. They are a help. They're intended to help to make it a little bit easier to access the degree at the Courtauld. And then there are a number which varies year by year of scholarships offered by Chase. Chase is a consortium of which we are part that allocates full funding, so full fees plus living expenses. Either directly or fund matched by the Courtauld, and this is open to everyone. But we have an internal selection panel, as I will explain in a minute, that decides who are among the applicants those who are more likely to get it. And so there is a selection among the applications that we receive to decide which are the projects that we send through for the Chase competition. I can explain that perhaps better in the Q&A session at the end of my presentation. External opportunities has more to do with we are open to external fundings of any kind that may arise or that you may be aware of. How to apply? The condition for applying is a certain attainment in our MA, and which is equivalent in the UK to a first or a distinction rather. But you can contact the email that I will share at the end of this presentation to ascertain that your grades, wherever you are compatible with our standards. So how the process goes. You send in a pre-application by the 7th of November. By that time, you're strongly advised to have contacted a potential supervisor at the Courtauld. I suggest you explore the faculty, look at their interests, their publications, what their previous PhDs researchers have done, and so that you can kind of think about potential matches for your own research project. I hope you've done it so already, but if you've not and you're thinking of applying, please do it today. Do it very soon, because the deadline for pre-application is short. It's in a short time. The pre-application includes a title, a short paragraph of 300 words explaining your topic and your CV. So it's very simple to pre-apply. Within 2 weeks, you'll receive a reply. I don't think we'll be able to send individual feedback, but we will certainly respond to everyone, and we will send to those who have been considered for further for continuing in the application process. You that receive a link that allows them to access the form to write the full application, whose the deadline of which is on the 4th of January. The full application includes the similar details, but a research project and of about 15 of a maximum of 1,500 words, which should include, I suggest, what are the research questions that you're asking, of course, how you're going to answer these questions. So what methods you're going to apply and what sources you're going to use to shed light on the subject that interests you. And of course, what materials, what artworks, what buildings you intend to analyze in detail, and why perhaps you think that the chosen supervisor is a good fit. These applications are evaluated by, and after this, you will have an interview with your supervisor and another member of the faculty at the Courtauld, and where it's a very informal discussion about your projects, your ambitions, your knowledge of the field, but without it's not a viva, it's just really a conversation about the field and how your work fits within it. And following this interview that must take place before the 16th of January, so you will then we will convene a selection panel in early February, probably the 1st of February, where we ratify those applications that are successful, and we will inform those candidates that have been selected for competing in the Chase scholarship competition. So the full outcome of this selection panel will be released on the 13th of February. And at that point, you will start to work. If you've been selected for the Chase competition, you start to work with your supervisor to fill the full Chase application. But this is a process that we'll explain at a later stage, however, which will be a process that will be completed in April when the outcome of the Chase competition is released. And with this, I think I have completed what I had to say. I hope I've given a rounded sense of what the Courtauld PhD looks like, and how and hope that you can feel how you may fit within this community. That I must say, it's a very tight, a very kind of comforting community, because we are a small institution. We are all together in a building, and everybody knows each other very quickly. So effectively, it's a place where most people feel very comfortable. I have to say also that there is a room with desks, lockers, kettle, where postgraduate researchers meet and work and read day and night. So it's a very engaging and in a sense protected community where you are in the building after, of course, you've been out in the world researching on your topics. So I hope this is a good picture, and I invite your questions through the chat that I have in front of me. And if there are any, please type them in, and you can maybe direct it to everyone rather than only to me. And hopefully I can reply. I can give an answer to your doubts or questions. The first question I've received from Amanda is, when is the start date? Is there also a later one during the year? The start date is at the end of September, beginning of October. At that point, there is a welcome week, and some events are dedicated to PhD students, postgraduate researchers. And it's a much better definition, postgraduate researchers, because, but I still have to get used to it. So late September, early October, with a start of the skills and methods seminar in early October. There is not a later start, although tailored solutions can be discussed for individual, for specific reasons. I hope that answered these questions. If you are equally interested in 2 research topics, is it possible to submit 2 research proposals and obviously be considered only for one of them? This is from Laura Sovilla. I suggest in this case that you discuss with a potential supervisor which one of the 2 is more suitable. I don't think it is I don't think it is really common to receive 2 applications from the same candidate. I mean, I don't see why not, but I really suggest to make a choice beforehand, considering that the topic, the focus can change, will change. This is one, I would focus on one, yes, and then in the common understanding that it may change over time. And this is, sorry, there are many questions coming in. Matthew asked, do we need to contact our proposed supervisor before the pre-application deadline? Yes, today, I suggest, as this meeting ends, you should get in touch and see whether they are available, whether they are interested in your subject. I've got a detailed, in detail how the submission works for Chase. Give me a second, I'll come back to Tatiana in a moment. Lawrence Lee asks a very important question. I'd like to ask if it is common for students to work with more than one supervisor if their work covers a wider scope. This is Lawrence, this gives me the opportunity to explain that you never work with a single supervisor, because there are supervisory teams formed by a supervisor and an advisor. And when the advisor, and they are generally 2 members of staff, we really have 37 permanent members of staff and cover really very many areas. And we have expertise in many, many areas, but should be impossible to find anyone in the building, so to speak, with the required expertise. We can occasionally, exceptionally involve external advisors. It is possible, in addition, to have 2 supervisors within the Courtauld. So be co-supervised by 2 members of staff. I think that if you've not been in touch with them or yet, perhaps this could be explained in your proposal, but it's certainly something that happens frequently, and it is common. In that case, you'd have 3 people, 2 co-supervisors and 1 advisor. Lawrence, I hope this answers your question. What possibilities are there? Someone called Laura asked, what possibilities are there to start a PhD program from abroad? Any remote possibilities of studying? Here, I'm sorry, Laura, I must say, no, really, at least the first year, it's really important that is spent in London, at least the academic year, not the 12 months, but October to December and January to May, June. I think it's very important to be part of a community. Of course, there are possibilities of spending time abroad, but I wouldn't consider this as a feasible thing that can be as something that can be done entirely from abroad. Especially the first year, I think it's very important that there is an in-person element to the program. Tatiana, I haven't forgotten, I'll come back. It's just that that takes really quite a bit of detail. Okay, so Laura in Sarah asked this, remote, I hope I've answered this. Tatiana asks a second question that I can answer now. Can I prepare my Courtauld application already according to Chase standards and submit this until the 4th of January, by the 4th of January to the Courtauld, and then work with my supervisor to submit this proposal? Yes, of course you can. That's actually advisable. You have to think about the Chase application and tailor it perhaps in some small ways to the Courtauld format, but indeed they're going to be one and the same thing eventually. Could you speak more to what Francesca Bisi asked? Could you speak more to what the interview process looked like? The interview process is very much a conversation. It's very much meeting up either online or in person, preferably, but potentially on Zoom, and really talk about your experience and your commitment and your understanding of the subjects, whether you are on the same page with the potential supervisor. They want to know you, they want to figure out what your background is. So it's a conversation to get to know each other. So very informal, with some where you can expand perhaps on your program and sorry, in your application. You can explain what sources you're looking at, what materials have made you interested in a certain subject. So it's an informal conversation to know each other. We were joking the other day, you don't marry your supervisor, but it is a commitment of a certain importance in yours and their lives. So 3-4 years together on a monthly, if not weekly basis, it's important to get to know each other. So it's more about that than about contents. Tatiana, all good? All good, great. Anna asks, I read somewhere that the doctoral loan from the UK government can't be used for the PhD programs at the Courtauld. Is that true? I'm afraid I think so, but again, please email the email address that is on the last slide. That's pgadmissions@courtauld.ac.uk. I'm afraid I think that's true. Lawrence Lee asks, should we contact one potential supervisor before the pre-application starts? Yet again, yes, do it now as I speak and explain what you want to do, why you want to do it, and whether they would be willing to be your supervisor. Ricardo Mandelbaum asks, could you please expand a little on what the explanation of your project should include in the pre-application to be sent on November 7? Well, explanation of your project is really explaining your central idea. What is the research question that you're asking, and how you're going to you intend to do it, and why do you think it's important? I mean, very generally, if you, I don't know, I can't think of an example, but because there are potentially so many, but I would say it's a synthetic, think of an abstract. If you read an abstract of a thesis or of an article, in 10, 12, 15 maximum lines, you get a sense of what it is done and how it is done. Okay, so this should put forward what you want to do, how you want to do it, and why do you think it is important to do it. So I don't know if that helps, but it's really a case-by-case answer. In any case, it also perhaps should hint at why it is feasible. Okay, so you're not asking, you're not proposing to study art in 20th century New York, right? Because that is not feasible in 3 years. We can't accept that application. But if you ask the working of the working practice of an artist over a number of years, that become, and you know that the documents, the archive of that artist is available in that particular repository or archive, then you have something that you can work with. And it's something that is more suitable because that artist will have produced a number of works. There's a world to discover. There is a universe to discover, and that is your goal. So give a sense of feasibility as well as the main central question that you. I don't think there are other questions, so I go back to the Chase application. The Chase application, as I explained to before, it's not wholly different from the Courtauld application that has to come in on the 4th of January. The Chase application is just a little bit more detailed on some of the aspects. What is important to keep in mind, to bear in mind, is that you write the Chase application in constant consultation with your potential supervisor. So you're not alone in writing up the Chase application. Once you've been approved and once you've been pushed forward for the Chase competition, you start a back and forth with your supervisor, of course, virtually, and you arrange meetings and discussions, and if you're around in person or online. So I wouldn't worry too much now about the details of the Chase application. It also changes slightly year by year, but I would be comforted by the thought that you're not doing it alone, and you will be doing you'll be doing that in consultation with a supervisor. I've got a new question from Lawrence, who asks, how many students at the Courtauld get awarded the Chase Scholarship? Is it open to international students? Okay, numbers vary. That we have no fixed numbers. This year, we only have 7 postgraduate researchers. Last year, there were 20. So it's a the cohort can vary quite a bit, quite a lot from year to year. The Chase scholarships are open to international students by any means. However, I think there are government, how to say, guidelines that fix a limit of 30% of Chase-funded applications for international students. However, 30% is probably about the ratio of home. It did change after Brexit, so I don't know what are the numbers, but in terms of percentage of home and international applications. However, they are open to international students. I will not hide the fact that there is a very kind of strong competition for these scholarships. What happens if you don't find a Amanda asks, what happens if you don't find a supervisor who is willing to take your project before the deadline on the 7th? Well, I would give it a try, as I said, starting today, but I wouldn't despair. And perhaps it would be advisable that you write to me, and I might be able to steer the conversation in a positive way with some of my colleagues. If you do write to me, please be a bit more specific about what you intend to do and what your background is, so that I can perhaps facilitate a conversation with a potential supervisor. If you don't have a supervisor, if you can, in any possible way, find a supervisor at the Courtauld, I'm afraid the Courtauld would not do a great service to you by taking you on if we can't offer the most suitable supervisor for your degree. I don't know if that answers the question, Amanda, but hopefully I think it begins to, at least it begins to. Okay, are there, thank you. Are there any other questions? I'll take perhaps 1 or 2 more. If not, I would like you to thank you very much for attending this session. Again, my name is Guido Rebecchini. You can see it, I guess, on the small icon of bit of your screen. My email is guido.rebecchini@courtauld.ac.uk. You can find me easily. And please do write if you have any doubts or further questions for me. I hope I've answered all the questions in the chat, going through them. I think that's all for now. So I wish you a very good evening today, or day, or morning, wherever you are in the world, and hope to hear from you soon through our application process. I'll stop sharing and goodbye then.